they be saying? Nothing good happens when the sun comes. Whatever they be saying. You should not be having sex. So that is the boundary. That's a firm boundary across the line. You're moving someone else to sin against the God they love. I want no parts of that. I don't ever want to do that to the person that I say that I love. Your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. So the real living God, the real true God is dwelling within you. So when we sit with that, we should treat our bodies different just based off that.
Welcome to the space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy God's way, right here is the place. Sex Ed for Saints, Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix. Trust in educators. Mondays at 6, we're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Sex Ed for Saints, Mondays at 6.
Today, I'm excited. I'm always excited. Every time I come on my podcast, I'm always excited because I have another guest for you. And today we have Sonata on the line. What's up, Sonata?
Hey, happy to be here. Okay, best-selling author.
Girl, we speaking it into existence, okay?
I know that's right.
We're going to call it till we see it, okay?
Amen.
Because who's going to question Right. But yeah, so welcome to the stream. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. We both had some difficult days, but we're gonna push through.
Yes, sure are.
And keep it moving. So I usually like to start my pods on with a little icebreaker. So we're gonna do a little myth versus truth, myth versus truth, myth versus truth. So I got some questions. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one that I have is most people are emotionally ready to date. They just need the right person.
As a therapist, I don't know if I would be able to agree with most people. So I'm gonna have to say that's a lie.
I know it is. But most people think that they are. They do think that they are, and it'd be like, okay.
Yeah, and that is actually a part of a lack of emotional maturity. So
yeah, big facts. Big facts. That's gonna show up in the marriage if they, but anyway. What about the weight only applies to sex?
That's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
The weight only applies to sex. No, I guess, yeah, there's a lot of waiting, right? When you say that reminds me of Song of Songs, where it talks about like not awakening love before it does so desire. So there's a lot of waiting out, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all the things. There's a lot of waiting.
It's a lot of waiting because we will give our emotions to somebody, right? Like we'll do a lot. Yeah, like I want to get into that. Okay, let me ask another one. If we love each other, trauma will work itself out.
You asking a lot of questions to a therapist. That wrong. Yeah, being in a relationship is not going to heal anything in and of itself. Just existing will not heal. There has to be healing aspects that play a role in that.
Absolutely. We're gonna get into all of that tonight. But again, welcome. I love those little myth versus facts because people be trying so hard not to laugh at those because they'd be like, wait, what?
Right.
Wait, what? Exactly. But today we are talking about, those questions are about preparing for the wait or prepping yourself to wait. And so we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. And so before we get into our conversation, Sonata, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, all the things.
Yeah. So I'm assuming Tammy found me through my podcast. So it's the Parallel Pod. It's a podcast about Christian sexuality, helping people learn how to wait and different aspects of sexuality that are not talked about in the church, in people's homes. And I did that for about 3 years, and that's still up. I got about 100 plus episodes on there. So that was really cool to be a part of that. And currently I'm a full-time therapist, marriage and family therapist, licensed. And that is like the love of my life currently, like my dream job. And I'll be doing that till they tell me to get out the chair. So that's me. My favorite animal is a giraffe. I love to have a good time. And I'm single.
Not for long, right?
Nah, come on, Jesus.
He's speaking it into existence over here.
Right.
Let me ask you, what led you into that field?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I took a Christian sexuality class or a human sexuality class in undergrad, and my teacher did such a good job of teaching it from a Christian perspective that I was like, every single Christian needs to hear this. So I would literally go from the classroom to my apartment and sit my roommates down, and I'd teach them everything I learned. And we'd be having really good conversations that we probably never would have had because it doesn't come up in conversation naturally. So it was a blessing to me, a blessing to my...
Hey friends, quick pause in this lesson because I need to put you onto something that has been blessing so many households. This episode has been sponsored by Covenant Eyes, the accountability app that helps you protect your eyes, your mind, and your marriage. If you're serious about keeping your digital life pure, guarded, and God-honoring, Covenant Eyes is a game changer. It helps you to stay accountable online and creates a safe space for your heart and your home. And listen, because you are a part of the Marriage Lab, you get 30 days free when you use my code Marriage Lab. So go ahead, take that step, cover your devices, and cover your covenant.
Roommates. And from there, I was like, people need to hear this. I didn't know where or how. I ended up doing my capstone project in my master's on sex education in America. And it was one of the capstones that had like the most turnout. So many people were in there. My friend's grandma was in there too. It was the whole thing. That was very awkward because I did a genitalia choir. I had one half of the group say vagina, the other say penis. And I just hit one of these because I've never been a choir director. So I said, now's the time. But I really enjoyed that. And I saw young people in there, older people in there. Everyone was really attentive. And I'm like, this is a need. And even after that, I didn't know what the Lord wanted me to do with it. And I think it was in 2021. I feel like in 2020, everybody had a podcast. So I was like, let me not, I don't want to just be another voice in the void. But I did feel towards the end of 2020 or 2022, at the end of 2020, I felt like the Lord was putting on my heart to do a podcast, and I just wanted to be obedient. So I started that, and people were so receptive, like crazy, across the world, like people in Australia, people in Africa, the UK, like everywhere around the world were like really taking to it. So it's been a blessing to hear people's stories and people to ask me questions and be able to just help and be there for people.
You know what? I love that because, being in this field, you find that so many people need it. So many people want it, and they just don't know how to access it in a way that makes them feel comfortable, And so you still got to work a little bit hard to give them the information that they know that they need because they want it, but there's such a guilt and shame attached to it that they're like, well, tell me, but tell me over the phone.
Some of it can be there's no trace of it.
No traces at all. But it is what it is. But today we are talking about preparing for the wait, and this topic interests me because during my singleness of being saved, let me say from the time that I was saved, I waited for a very long time. Now, I dated in that process, but I did 10 years of just being celibate. And so I learned some things. I know it was hard. It was rough. Like it was like, wait a minute, God, because I was very active prior to. And so now I'm coming into the world and I'm coming into God, and everything that I did in the world, it was like an immediate halt. It was like an immediate stop. And so I'm like, okay, I want to help people to understand, how do you wait? What does that look like, and why this conversation actually matters? Because I do believe that people need to hear it. And one of the things that I did realize is that there are so many people who are broken before they get into relationships. And so I want to know, like, from your perspective, what, well, from your experience, like, do you think that most people enter into relationships broken?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if we look at it like from a Christian perspective, like we all are at some extent. And I think most people don't grow up with good examples of what a healthy relationship looks like, and they're just kind of clumsily moving along and hoping that they're kind of doing it the right way. So I would definitely say most people are going into relationships with brokenness. Even their view of what a relationship should provide them, what they should be giving to other people, is often
Mhm.
skewed. So I definitely believe that there's a lot of brokenness in relationship for sure.
Yeah, from like, so tell me, what does some of that look like? Because I know for me, I could say that during the time that I was, not saved, and like from the perspective of, us all being broken, and then we come into being saved, there are some things that I didn't understand that was a form of brokenness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so help me understand what that looks like or how that might show up for individuals. I know it might be a little different, but what do you find common?
Yeah. So in my practice, I do see a lot of couples and things like that. So I would say the most common thing is people think that they are, and I'm looking at marriage, they're getting married and moving into relationship for their own happiness. So I'm supposed to make you happy and you're supposed to make me happy. And they're asking that to perfection from flawed people. So
Yeah.
it's never going to work out.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the time I'm teaching people about humility and what love actually requires of people, which is sacrifice, and compassion and curiosity, because there is a lot of the Disney aspect that you should just know me when we meet, and all the things that I need and want. You should just be able to observe me and know everything that I desire. And if you don't love me, and that is running rampant in a lot of relationships and causing a lot of disconnect. So that's probably what I'd say are
Absolutely.
kind of the overall things that I've noticed.
Absolutely, because so many people have this idea of what they feel like marriage should be until they actually get in it, and they go into it with their fantasies from the broken experiences that they have,
Hmm.
and then they see this beautiful picture that highlights something that they want because it's something that they're not familiar with through experience. So
Hmm.
I completely get that. And so, because a part of that waiting process is, helping people to understand, that you can heal from your brokenness, or getting to a place where you become aware of your brokenness. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what do you think individuals or anyone should be doing during the wait to basically be able to heal from some of the things that they've experienced?
Yeah, well, this is going to be obviously I'm a therapist, so I'm definitely going to encourage people to go to therapy. At the least, having wise counsel in your life and asking good questions to them, being vulnerable with people and asking them like, what do you think I need to work on? Asking your close people, what do you think where are my shortcomings? Where are my blind spots that I'm not seeing that might affect me in a relationship? And working through those things, whether that be with a safe person or an actual therapist, I think that's a huge step. Um, yeah, that's kind of where I would tell people to start. And there's just so many things, but I think that's probably where I tell people to start.
And that's a good start because I mean, you're a therapist, so you already understand it. When it comes to the numbers and people who actually do therapy, they just don't. And why do you think that is?
It takes so much bravery to sit in front of someone and be flawed.
Yeah.
I think just in general. So to do that on top of that with a stranger you've never met before, and also I think a lot of people know that when they sit with their emotions, they're so confused and there's so much unknown in it. There's this opinion that when I find what I find, I won't be able to navigate it. I'm not going to be able to conquer it. So why would I even go and open that box? and put myself
Yeah.
through that. So it's
Yeah.
scary.
It is. And I actually love that response because, a lot of us individuals are ready for relationships, but we're not ready to be vulnerable. And if we can't go through that process, then that means that we're not ready. That requires us to wait. And when you are at the level where you can be vulnerable in front of other people, that's a start that, you're ready to proceed forward. Like, would you agree about that?
Definitely. Yeah. Um, that kind of reminds me of a client I recently had, and yeah, it takes so much vulnerability, and I honestly see this in parents that come in with their children. So that's a second step in marriage, right? You get married, and then eventually the usual goal for people is to have children, and that's really where I think a lot of people realize their emotional incapacity or whatnot, because I think being a parent causes you to be way more vulnerable than it forces you into vulnerability. um, so I've noticed that definitely with a lot of fathers trying to deal with their children's emotionality. So even before that, you should be navigating that with your wife or with your husband, being able to just be seen by people and handle that. Because just that alone, even if someone's not even saying anything to you, I'm kind of thinking as well, like on your wedding night, when someone sees you naked for the first time, it's like that's a huge step to take. Even if they haven't even said anything yet, just standing there naked and being exposed is vulnerable. And then on top of that, when we look back at emotions, when you're exposed and someone says something about it, that's even more vulnerable. So they're kind
Yeah.
of really acknowledging, like, I see you, and maybe it's I don't like what I see because of the flaws, or like, you hurt me in this way, and someone is bringing that to your attention. That takes a lot of humility to be able to look at yourself and say, this is true of me. I hurt someone that I love, and be able to stand in that and apologize instead of moving to pride, and fear, and doubling down and saying, no, I would never hurt someone I love, or whatever people may do in response to being seen.
That's so good. That's so good because, again, all of that is about vulnerability, right? And you mentioned something that's so beautiful, but also so vulnerable. And before you can even get to that level of freeness, I think it's so important that people go through that process of, being single and waiting so that you can learn how to be vulnerable in a way that feels safe.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and as you say that, I'm kind of thinking, like, in the waiting, whether it be you're in a relationship or just like waiting sexually, this is why it's so important to have good friendships in your life, people that love you well, and can love you into health before you even get into a relationship, and people you can be vulnerable with and accountable to, and allowing people to hold you accountable, definitely helps you be able to model that when you get into a relationship because you've already been practicing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I'm thinking because for myself when I when I got saved and I went through that whole process of purity and was drilled on the purity message and what that looks like and how that message is the purity
Mhm.
culture.
Mhm.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. So let's talk a little bit about purity, what that is, while you're waiting.
Okay. Yeah. So I think what I try to remind people is that, like, purity does not equal virginity. Because I think a lot of virgins can be prideful, actually.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
because I've waited, then I'm pure. But
Mhm.
the Lord talks about if you look at a woman with lustful intent. So at the end of the day, we've all lost our purity. Because I looked at a man with lustful intent more than once in my life. Okay. I'll be honest with you. So we've all lost it, okay? But
Yeah.
our heart posture in returning to the Lord is so important. So I think purity is really about a desire to honor God with our sexuality, and repentance, a repentant heart when we are intentionally lusting after people. And then there is a beauty of virginity, being honoring the Lord, and what He asks us to do is keeping the marital bed holy, and honoring our bodies, because the Bible does talk about how other sins are against others, but when you sin sexually, you're sinning against yourself.
Have you joined the waitlist for my brand new book, Hey God, Can I? This is your go-to ABC guide for married saints. Bring your questions about God, sex, and intimacy. This isn't just a book, it's a resource to help you grow spiritually while strengthening your marriage bed. So if you've ever wondered what God really says about sex and intimacy, this book is for YOU. Tap the link, sign up for the waitlist, and be the first to know when it drops. Don't wait, sis, get on the list today.
So there's a deeper level of sin there that is actually should make you sad when you think of that. Like, why am I allowing me to sin against myself in that way? And I'm with me 24/7, and I'm allowing this. And then that creates a distance in relationship with you. You can't even trust yourself because you've allowed yourself to experience those things. So I really think purity speaks to a desire to honor the Lord and love yourself well, which is the second greatest commandment, right? To love others as yourself. And I have to spend so much time in my sessions reminding people that last part is a command as well. You loving you.
Yeah.
So
as yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I would see that purity is definitely connected to just this desire to honor God as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually love that because, when you look at it from that perspective, it changes your perception of what purity actually is. And you're not striving just to check things off on a list, but you're actually trying to live that out loud. Yeah. So I love that. I love that. But so let's talk about healing though, because, what I can say is during that time that I'm being taught about purity, I'm only looking for a checklist. I'm not actually doing the actual work to heal. Right. And so for me, what that did was after I got married, I've been married for 8 years. And so when I got married, it was prior to me being celibate, I was doing everything. Okay. Like there was almost no limits to what it was that I would not do. And so I come into God and it's like, okay, God, I'm saved. I want to give you all of me, all of my heart, all of these things. And immediately I'm being told, sex is bad. You can't look at this. You can't watch this. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. I was not actually taking the work to actually heal. And so when I got married, it was almost like I had been conditioned to believe that sex was this bad thing. And so things that I should have been able to do with my husband, it was like, I'm not even sure if this is okay because, I've been told that this is not okay. This is not okay. That's what started this whole journey for me, was trying to understand what is okay. What does God say is okay? And so I had to go directly to God. And then I realized that I had a whole lot of things that I didn't heal from. Like I got saved and I said yes, right? And I started doing the motions of being in church, but I wasn't actually healing from the trauma that I had experienced. So help me to understand, because there are a lot of people who have experienced that or go through that. And while you're single, I want people to be able to know, like, you have to actually go through a process. So help me understand what that would look like from your perspective.
Yeah. So I think what you're talking to is what Paul David Tripp, who is a wonderful pastor, talks about the difference between behavior modification and heart change.
Yeah.
And I think you knew what to do and what not to do and where to do it and how not to do that. But then it actually confused you because they just the way that they try to do things is just so backwards, telling people that sex is bad, and then now within 24 hours do it all the time. And actually now we're going to apply the scripture that you can't withhold sex from your husband.
Yeah.
Think about the position that puts a woman in. That is actually so sad. What a confusing position to be in. And then you think back, well, when I was out here in these streets, I was doing this and doing that. I would like to do that with you, but I don't know if I can do that. But this is the place to do it, actually.
Yeah.
The marriage bed is undefiled.
Yeah.
So everything you wanted to do your husband that night would have been appropriate. But because of this false information that the church had given you, now you're kind of hesitating when you should feel like reckless abandon in that space.
Exactly.
So I think that's really sad that is how they communicated that to you. And you're not the only person that I've heard experiencing that confusion. I've had to walk recently with a client through being able to even have a conversation with her husband about sex. weren't even talking about it. She was just uncomfortable and doing her duties. So that conversation aspect is going to be huge as well. Like being able to talk to your husband and be free and allow yourself to just experience the fruit of your labor. You waited all this time. So you get to experience it in the way that God has called you to experience it. So I think it's good that you went to the Bible. Look at Song of Songs. You know, I think a lot of people tell single people not to read it, and I don't quite know how I feel about that. Something feels wrong about that. Like it's the Bible.
It's the Bible.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like beautiful innuendos and stuff in there.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking about it, and you know, we know Songs of Solomon is a love story between a husband and a wife. It's also a love story between God and his people. Yes. And so when you're looking at it like that and your singleness, right? You're not looking at it in an erotic way of things that you should do with your spouse, but you're looking at it in the relationship that you should have with God and how you should pursue him and things like that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a parallel. I think some of it is true. Like Solomon did love that woman and the people were championing their relationship, and he did talk about how he likes her body and what he likes about it. But at the same time, like it is imaging that ultimately we are God's bride and he will dote over us and he does adore us. So we should desire our relationships to feel similar in that way, that the person that I'm with admires me, they love me well, they pursue me. And that's for women and men. Not that it's the initial pursuit that a woman's pursuing a man, but you should let the man that you like know that you like him, especially when you're in a relationship with him. Like tell him that he's handsome, tell him that you appreciate things about him. And let the people around you know that's what they did. And I think that also speaks to the importance of other people being a part of dating and your marriage and allowing them to hold you guys accountable and have a say in how they feel about the person as well. So I definitely think it's a beautiful parallel to see how we should allow the Lord to adorn us, but also our relationship to reflect that as well.
I love that. I love that. You know what else I loved about reading that book was her confidence.
She said, my man.
Which shows a whole lot, right? And so like if we apply that to our singleness, right? Well, singleness period. How can somebody get to that level where they are confident about themselves? So let's walk through some steps that somebody can do so that when they do wait, they can build their self-confidence.
Yeah, I actually love this topic. I actually just did a group with women, a 5-week group on godly confidence. So I love it. I think a huge part for me personally, I originally grew up in New York and it was more of a predominantly space, but then I moved to Ocala, Florida, which is a lot of trees and people that don't look like me. So that was a hard adjustment. And I kind of was confused because I'm like, my pieces were hitting back in New York. So what's going on? What's going on here? I thought I was cute. And I had to decide, you know what? I need to find a way to believe what's good about me and it can never change. So I went to the word and I looked at how God says that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That when he finished on the 7th day, he looked at his creation and he said, it is good. And I said, I was there then. He thinks that of me because I'm his creation. So really just reminding myself of how God sees me and aligning with that no matter what. So even if someone were to tell me, I remember when I was younger, like I was skinny. This boy called me a toothpick. I didn't care. The Lord says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and I know I'm cute. I've decided.
Yeah.
So I think that is one aspect, right? Seeing that aspect. Also, I think understanding your emotions and being able to be a safe place for yourself is huge. So when you feel something, you're able to care for you, to understand you, to be compassionate to yourself. So you feel safe with you when you're by yourself. And that also allows you to communicate your emotions to people effectively in a way that helps you and is healthy. So just understanding your emotions is a huge thing as well. And then also knowing your purpose here on this earth. Like God created you and no one else like you. So you have work to do here. And I think when we shrink down, we miss that people are missing out on you. And this is before you even get into a relationship. People are missing out on you. on the goodness in you, on your humor, on your insight, your opinions, your joy, your love, your peace. And when you shrink down and say, I'm not enough, or I'm not enough of this, I'm not enough of that, you're actually missing your call in this world. So I think all of those things encompassed together are a real good combination to start working towards confidence before getting into a relationship.
I love that. I love that because it's layered. It's not just one thing. It's you having a concept of who God is and knowing how he feels about you and
Mm-hmm.
combining that with everything else. I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence is a real thing.
Yeah, it's something to be worked on and intentional. It's a skill to build. So
It is. It is. I remember reading a study where it said that 78% of women are dissatisfied about something about their body, and I thought about those numbers are so big.
mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's some big numbers. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to talk a little bit about self-care and the importance of self-care and how you should be taking care of yourself while you are waiting. I'm just
Mm.
thinking about Esther and they did a whole year of just practicing
Beautification.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What does that
Mm-hmm.
look like from your perspective?
Yeah. So when you asked me that, this is another thing that I talk to women about too, and I've done an episode on like the importance of remembering, like literally, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. So the real living God, the real true God, is dwelling within you. So when we sit with that, we should treat our bodies different just based off that. Period. Like you have been given you to steward you well. So that can look like being intentional about hygiene, right? Just showering, make sure you're cleaning your body and taking care of it well, right? And then that looks like us working out as well and making sure that we're healthy, we're cared for on the inside. And then also, I think there's a beautiful importance because I think when you're single, you feel like you can't look at anything sexual or even like think about your sexuality, or even about your body. But I do think it's important to develop a healthy relationship with your body. I had the girls in my group take a mirror to their vaginas and look at it because we have less of a relationship with our genitalia than men do. They spend way more time with it just because like they have to manipulate it more often than us. I'm gonna leave it at there. At that. So we don't even see our genitalia as often as men do. So they actually have a more familiar relationship with their genitalia than we do. And when I told the girls in the group to do that, they're like, okay, like I'm uncomfortable. Like I've done it before, but I didn't like looking at her. And I'm like, we need to build a better relationship. So I told them to sit in the mirror, I think for 3 minutes, I said, and just look at her. There's no opinion. Just spend some time with her. And they've talked about how she's changed over time. And I've noticed things about her that I didn't notice before. And just that, like, it's funny to say, but that camaraderie that you build with your genitalia can allow you to take care of her well and care for her. And I had them watch a clip from this show called Hot or Not. I think it's called. Not a great show, very worldly. But that episode, one of the girls, they had them do that same activity, and one of the girls said, "I'm not just letting anybody in here anymore. No, like she doesn't deserve that." And she's right about that. You can't just let anybody up in there. Take care of her. So I think getting better acquainted with your body, and also another aspect that I did a TikTok on recently is not sexualizing your body, and that talks about I was talking about masturbation, where you don't want to expect from you that you have to be sexual with you every time you lay down at night.
Yeah.
And we want to move away from that so you can just look at your naked body and appreciate it as just a good creation that God was intentional about creating. And that will even more help with confidence as well. So that's kind of what I'd say about that.
You know what? I actually love that because I don't know how many women who I have spoken. So I speak to married women now, mostly married women.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many I have spoken to, and they can't even label their anatomy. They don't know where their clitoris is. They're like, I don't understand my clitoris. I don't even know what it is. They're just thinking, penetration, that's it. And it's so much more than that. And they are not having orgasms because they don't know and understand their body. And so when you say that, I think it's so important, but most people think immediately, if I look at my body, that means masturbation, or if I look at my body, that like it makes me feel uncomfortable. And so I think that that is so powerful, that that is something that you do. I want to talk a little bit about masturbation, since you brought it up, right?
Yeah.
Because during the wait, let me tell you, it would have been 11 years, okay? But I could not stop. I was like, nah, I'd get in because
Girl,
there was a transition.
Full transparency, I'm actually a virgin, so girl, I understand the wait.
And I love that. See, that's why I have you on the show.
Yeah, we get it.
The weight is strong. And so imagine that, because having to have all the sex that you want to now transition to not having it at all, it was like, hold on, wait a minute. Are you telling me now, God, that I can't experience this at all? I'm going to just do myself right now. But the conviction that lied there was just so powerful.
Yeah.
That I was like, nah, I got to stop. I got to give it all to God. So let's talk a little bit about that.
And then you think about it, masturbation is never as fulfilling as you think it will be before you enter into doing it. It always feels like something's missing, and there is something missing, especially as a woman. Like there's genitalia that is supposed to be a part of the union that the Lord is. So sex is literally imaging Christ coming together with the church. Sometimes when I say that, people get uncomfortable. It's like, oh, I don't want to think about Jesus when I'm having sex, but that's what the imagery is. Like it is literally the image of the ultimate, the pinnacle of our lives, where we finally meet the Lord and we're one with him, and we're always with him forever and eternity. So that's also why sex outside of marriage is perverting the gospel. And so is masturbation.
Yeah.
Who are you uniting with?
Yeah.
It's just you.
It's just you.
So you're also perverting the gospel in that moment.
Yeah.
And you're actually not even doing what you fully want, and which is to be one with somebody. So like I said earlier, like you are sexualizing yourself unnecessarily. And if you say somehow I can not think about other people, or somehow not sexualize yourself, okay. If you can find that, sure. But at the least, you are not exhibiting self-control before marriage. Yeah. And that is a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
So if all you get out of it is a fruit of the Spirit when you don't engage in that, then so be it. You're more like Christ. And that's the whole reason we're here anyways.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we have to land with that.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love, because let me tell you this question, every time I'm speaking to someone, being single, it's always the single ones who are asking me, of course. There's so many ways that they're trying to justify, the ability to, make sure that they plead it. Well, I don't want to, like, I need something to hold on to while I wait.
Go ahead and get you a pregnancy pillow, okay? That's top notch. Them pregnancy pillows get you right. But actually, though, like just to be mindful of people's hearts, right? Like, yes, masturbation is bad. You need to ask you, how can I care for me and comfort me in a way that honors God and honors myself? So it's not going to be masturbation. And I know there's some sadness there. You're allowed to be sad about that, because it might be the best way that you feel like you can achieve pleasure on demand. But there are other ways to find pleasure. And that's what I talk to the women in an unwanted group I do for unwanted sexual behavior. Yes, it is hard that you can't please yourself in that way, but we need to look for other coping skills in the wait. And that might be spending time with a friend. That might be going out and riding a bike, or going for a walk, or reading a good book, drinking some water. Like your body can feel that going through and can receive pleasure from that. So we're looking for pleasure in healthy ways. And I talked to them about how in the Bible, Eden, like the Garden of Eden, Eden means pleasure. So we were created for pleasure. So your desire for pleasure is a good thing, but we want to find it in a healthy, appropriate way before you can do that in marriage.
I love that answer. You said something interesting earlier that I want you to tap into, because a lot of people, as you mentioned, they're uncomfortable with thinking about Jesus and becoming one in a sexual tone. But one of my favorite quotes is John Piper, where he says that the ultimate reason why we are sexual is to make God more deeply known. And so let's talk a little bit about the importance of, when we're thinking in our singleness and we're waiting, why that's important.
Mm-hmm. So can you clarify the question a little bit?
So we're talking about why it's important to understand the perception of why your sexuality is reserved,
Okay.
why God being in that matters.
Yeah, and I just say, like, we do so many things differently than we approach sex in marriage. Like, you rarely move into a home and say, or have someone move into your home and say, no lease, just pay me rent whenever you want to, no contract, just figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go. Or even when you go and apply for a job, if you were to get the job and they say, yeah, we'll get back to you whenever and maybe we'll pay you, I don't know, you would not enjoy that. And it's similar to sex and marriage. Like, you want to be in a covenant and have some safety and comfort in that relationship. And when you give your body away to somebody who hasn't committed to you, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I know there might be people thinking right now, okay, well, people get married and they cheat anyways. And that does happen. But we're trying to get you the closest to the safest way to be loved. Yeah. And that is in covenant.
I love that. We're trying to get you to the closest way to be loved. Listen, that's a bar. That is a whole bar. Yeah. And so, so let's get into that though, because I want people to understand, at what point am I ready to be in a relationship and dating? So help us understand, at what point should you, at what point would you understand when you're even ready to be in a relationship?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one. I don't know if we can kind of pinpoint that in to like a T, but I definitely say when you feel like you are a safe person for yourself, emotionally, and behaviorally, that you make decisions for you that are self-controlled and wise and loving, and you emotionally, right? So then we go physically as well, right? You're taking care of your body and caring for you in that way. And I think ultimately, spiritually is the most important part, that you feel like you can honor the Lord with your life before being in a relationship, and setting boundaries with yourself before you even get to a relationship, because you're going to need them. You are entering into a relationship with someone that you find attractive and loves the Lord and loves you well. Your body's going to start sending signals like, okay, we're ready now. And you're going to have to say, hold on, we need to honor the Lord with our sexuality. So if you feel like you're someone who is able to communicate your boundaries well, to love yourself well, to love other people well, you're someone who has prioritized community and accountability before being in a relationship, I don't think anyone's going to be fully ready. It's similar to being a parent. I feel like you think you get as ready as you can, and then you hop in and you learn more about yourself. But the things that I just talked about are good foundational things to be mindful of: being a good communicator, loving yourself well, loving people well, and ultimately your life being about honoring Christ and not letting anything compromise that, because there will be opportunities to do that when you get into a relationship.
I love that. I love that. You said something very important, creating boundaries, and you touched on a little bit about what that looks like. Let's go a little bit deeper into some boundaries and what that should look like for somebody.
Yeah. And, back in the day, that purity culture will tell you after midnight or after 10 o'clock or whatever they were saying, nothing good happens when the sun comes, whatever they were saying. I get that, but it is individual. Obviously, you should not be having sex. So that is the boundary. That's a firm boundary across the line. But y'all need to look at yourselves and think, like, what for me individually is going to make me sin against God and sin against you? Because we have to view it that way. You are moving yourself to sin. You're moving someone else to sin against the God they love. I want no parts of that. I don't ever want to do that to the person that I say that I love.
Yeah.
So I find that line and I say, well, for some people, I can't kiss at all because I'm gonna want to do way more than that, and that's where they're gonna land. For other people, it's I can't even sit next to you on the couch. We can't lay in the bed. Definitely not doing that. Can't be in the house alone. it could be different for different people, but I
Yeah.
would say to really look at your individual convictions and be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Be honest and go from there.
That key part right there, be honest.
Yes, for real.
I I understand that. I understand that. You mentioned something that I want to touch a little bit because you mentioned, you know, boundaries could be no kissing. But shouldn't everybody be able to kiss?
Girl, some people can. Some people cannot. And some people, yeah, you have to know yourself, you know? You have to know yourself. Um, some people are not even willing to even get close to sinning against God. So they say, we're going to just cut it off right there and keep it platonic before the relationship. Before things get deeper. And that
Yeah.
actually reminded me of something as well. Um, there is so much health in building an emotional, platonic friend relationship before entering marriage with somebody, because we know that sex can cloud people's judgment, and pleasure can be addicting in that way. Look at the pornography industry; it's making billions of dollars right now for a reason. So we know that pleasure can be addicting. So when you remove that, you actually give yourself an opportunity for clarity, and to actually feel that person emotionally, to feel what kind of man they are, what kind of woman they are, how they act in different scenarios, and not being blinded by the next time you guys are going to get into bed, or having a recent disagreement and jump into bed because that'll solve it. So I think that is something to really definitely be intentional about as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so true because, you know, I think that when we learn how to communicate well and effectively, it makes everything so much better.
Hmm.
And I learned that from me and my husband. We have a great relationship. We speak all the time. And, you know, I tell him all the time, like, man, we are really friends. We're
Oh,
really
that's
friends.
awesome.
And to build that with someone, you experience everything out so much more. You
Hmm.
know, like it makes everything so much better because, you know, when you get angry at each other, we know that it's not going to lead to like divorce. We just know we mad, you
Yeah,
know?
or even disrespect. Like, let's just have a
Yeah.
conversation. I actually love you.
Yeah. Exactly. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, what are some non-sexual ways that, um, if somebody does decide to get into a relationship with someone, what are some non-sexual things that they could do?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I did do an episode on this as well. I think sitting across from somebody and looking in their eyes sounds like nothing, but when you do it, you realize how intimate that actually is. Like, just staring at them. I've had clients do that in session. I just want you to sit there for 2 minutes and look into each other's eyes. And there's always chuckles, and there've been tears, and it's just a different level of vulnerability. And they've talked about, like, I didn't notice that mole that you have on your face, or when you smile, your left eye goes a little more higher than the other one does, or something like that. So that's intimate. Um, and I also think sitting down and just having conversations with each other that are deep. I always encourage my clients to get different, like, conversation decks and getting deeper with one another. That's very intimate. And like I spoke about, emotional intimacy is deep. And that's why there's a thing called emotional affairs. That's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So we know that it really matters in relationship to have a deeper emotional bond with the person that you're in relationship with. So um, I'd say looking at each other. Of course, hugging people, you're allowed to hold each other. And like I said, that you have to be mindful of your own boundaries. How long can you do that? Where your hands are going when you're doing that. Um, and I think those are kind of some different ways that you can be intimate with each other.
Yeah, I love that because you kind of answered that question that I had about intimacy. Because I was going to ask you, you know, what are some things that they could do to practice intimacy skills, even in relationship? And you kind of answered that a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
and if,
so,
if if the Lord allows it and you have no conviction, like, kissing is okay, but being mindful once again of how far that goes, and keeping your hands where the Lord would honor it. You know, if Jesus was in the room, how comfortable would you be with doing stuff? That's
yeah,
kind of what you need to be mindful of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you don't find out whether or not it bothers you until you're actually in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some things that you would suggest to kind of safeguard those?
I was gonna literally yell in the mic, Blake Frozen. um, but I think, like I've been talking about, you knowing you is gonna have to be something that's true about you before you get into a relationship. And being mindful of that, and being very communicative. And once you feel that you are overstepping a boundary, flee from temptation. I always think of Joseph. My man's, she didn't even get to touch his skin. She had his jacket. He said, "Oh no, I don't even need the jacket anymore." That's how we need to be relationally.
Mm-hmm.
Once you feel it, oh no, I'm sorry, hold on. That's doing something to me. So that's, now we know where the boundary lies. That's for me. How was that for you? And they say, oh, that wasn't too bad for me. But we set the boundary at the person with the most arousal. That's where you got to do it. If one
Yeah.
person's like, we can kiss longer, but for you, a peck on the cheek, a peck on the cheek, or a peck on the mouth is as far as you can go. That's what a new boundary is. Until you
Mhm.
guys can honor the Lord fully and indulge when you guys are married.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about that real quick. Because a lot of us are, when you're single, you're having desires, and you want to experience pleasure. Let's talk a little bit about pleasure and ways that we can understand pleasure in singleness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely, I think, like I said earlier, we were all made for pleasure. So I think the first step there is to not shame yourself for desire. And I think that's sadly what happened in the purity culture whole thing. And it's not godly. It's not godly to demonize pleasure, because God created us with that desire. So I think that's a good place to start. Um, and then pleasure is not only sexual. In the book Unwanted by Jay Stringer, he talks about our sensuality and allowing our bodies to have enjoyment that is not sexual. So I think he spoke about this in the book. Either he did it or I heard it somewhere else, but I had the
Mhm.
women in my group take a mint and put it in their mouth and enjoy it, feel the ridges in it and the taste of it, how it feels on their tongue, and really take their time with it, and take pleasure in that. And they noticed, like, oh, I never knew there was ridges here, or even that it had words on it, or that it had this feeling on my tongue, or how it hit my teeth. So we can have sensuality, and enjoy touch, um, and pursue pleasure in those ways. And pleasure is so deep. Pleasure can be found in friendship, like having good conversations and feeling safe with people, and also enjoying a massage. That's a way to get pleasure, and enjoying that feeling on your body, and it not having to feel sexual, but just goodness to your body. So there's different avenues and different ways to find pleasure that are not only sexual but can be sensual, and thinking about what you see, feel, touch, hear, smell, and finding things that feel good to you in those ways.
I love that. All of the senses, all of the
Hmm.
senses. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sonata, we could be here all night talking
Sure
about this
can.
topic. And I really do. But I want you to offer some words of wisdom, because, what is something that you would offer to somebody who wants to honor God while they are preparing?
Hmm. Yeah, well, first I want to say, like, I'm in the same boat. I am also waiting. So this is not coming from someone who can't relate. Um, I want to say that I know that it gets hard. I just want to acknowledge that. You're right. It does get hard, and it gets lonely. And it causes you to question if the Lord will provide for you. It'll cause you to question if you're good enough, or play the comparison game. So I get all of those things. But at the end of the day, we are fighting for the final marriage. And the Lord could come tonight, could come during this podcast. And our main goal is to be found worthy, um, for Him to ask us, uh, you know, when you arrive up there, you want Him to say, well done, good and faithful servant. And that is our goal. And
Yeah.
sexuality is not a exception to that.
Yeah.
So that would be the key wisdom. Um, but I think just listening to what we talked about today, and being intentional about loving yourself well in the weight, and surrounding yourself with people who love you well as well.
I love that. I love that. I want to ask, I want to backtrack just a little real quick, because I know that there are people who are watching this and, you know, they've been doing the thing, they've been going hard, but they made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So speak to that person on what they can do to pick themselves back up again.
Yeah. And I definitely think a lot of people will give up and just keep indulging in sexual sin because of that. They just tell themselves, well, I already made a mistake now, so the Lord's not going to choose me after this. I've already sinned against him. But that is not the heart posture of the God that we serve. He's a forgiving God. He's a God of journey, and he's patient with his kids. And also, he knows you. He knows that you're a flawed human. We are compared to sheep in the Bible for a reason. We're the animal that is pulled from our head out of the ditch, and we jump right back head first. He knows his kids. So instead of keeping your head in the ditch or moving towards putting your head in the mud, run back to your Savior. Run back to the shepherd, and remember like who his character is when your character does not align with his. And that's probably what I'd say for that.
I love that. I absolutely love that response. I absolutely love that. God knows you. Okay.
Yes, we are sheep. You look like
yes.
a sheep when you make a mistake, and just come on back to the shepherd.
Come on back.
Yes.
All right. So I know we've been on here talking for almost an hour, which is pretty good, because it's been so good. You have left so many gems and so many nuggets. I want you to help somebody understand, okay, they're watching this and they've been living their life the way that they've been living it, but now they're ready for the weight. What is the first step that you would tell them to do?
I would first say to see and believe that the Lord is proud of you. Like he is so pleased with you, and receive that. And then you move in that same heart posture in loving yourself and loving God well. And that's across the board in your life. So I think that would be the best wisdom of like, just honor God and do your best with that. Like I just said, you're not going to do it perfectly, but your heart posture should be to honor God. And that reminds me of that verse that a lot of singles don't like to hear. But as I've gotten older and more mature in my faith, it is comforting to seek first the kingdom. And it allows us to see glory when we feel alone and chaos or a lack of the things that we desire, our desires being unfulfilled. We can look at the Lord and remember what kind of God he is, that he is a good friend. He's a good love. And everything that you are looking for in other people, you already have full access to. And when we can sit with that and realize that, yeah, I'm going to seek first the kingdom because this world does not have what I need. So allowing yourself to be, I hate to say this because I know how it sounds to singles, to be content in the Lord. I know that feels bad. And I'm not saying once you're content, the man gonna come, okay? Because I know people be saying that. But to find joy and stability and safety in your God will be the best thing that you can do from here on out.
Yeah, I love that, because when you become content, it hits different. It hits different.
And he's better. He's better than anything that we think that we need on this earth. So go to the thing that is actually what you need, the blueprint.
Yeah. And y'all worship.
Yeah.
Worship does it.
Definitely. It's a good reminder.
It's a good reminder. It's a good reminder. Sonata, this conversation has been beautiful. I absolutely love it, man. I wanted to stay on longer, but I can't. But I want you to tell everybody, where can they reach you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is at the Parallel Pod, I believe, or at Christian Sexuality. Just type in the Parallel Pod somewhere and anywhere. It's on YouTube. My podcast is on YouTube. It's on Spotify, I believe Apple as well. So you can access those things there. And I'm also a Christian counselor out here. So if you were to look me up, you can receive counseling from me if you're in the Florida area, virtually or in person in Orlando. And that's where I'll be.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Y'all. So I thank you for coming on and sharing so many good nuggets, because I truly believe that, whatever you have shared is definitely going to help somebody. It was just so good. Girl, you are wise, okay?
The Holy Spirit be moving.
Like, is your gift wisdom? Because, honey,
I've heard that before.
you were
So.
dropping me. Oh, you have? You
Yes.
have? So that's confirmation that one of your spiritual gifts is wisdom. You're wise beyond your years.
Amen.
And
Thank you.
and as I hear you talking, I'm just like, man, if I would have been able to have a little bit of that type of strength when I was younger, man.
Mhm.
Okay.
You got it now. That's what matters.
Yeah, I got it now. I was one of those marry or burn type of persons. Okay.
Oh.
God, I'm tired of waiting. I can't do it no more. We're not gonna make it out here.
That's hilarious.
But no, thank you for coming and sharing your gems. A lot of what you shared, or this conversation, reminded me that, waiting is not punishment. It's really just about preparing yourself. It's preparation for something bigger that is to come. It's God's way of giving you the time that you need to heal, time that you need to grow, time that you need to, become the kind of person who could love others well without losing themselves. And so whether you are waiting, or whether you are about to date, or praying, your way through healing, I hope that this episode gave you the tools, insights that you need, and a little bit more freedom so that you can breathe in your process. So thank you again, those who have tuned in. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. And so until next time, bye.
Bye.
Mondays